जी, अस्सलाम वालेकुम। क्या हाल है बेटा? आप सब ठीक हैं? चलें जी, आज का एक ब्रीफ सा लेक्चर है, ब्रीफ सा इन अ सेंस कि इसमें एक टॉपिक हम हमारा जो रह गया था लास्ट लेक्चर में वो करना है और साथ ही मैं आपको आज के लेक्चर में कुछ वीडियोज़ के ज़रिए एग्ज़ाम्पल्स जो पिछले टॉपिक्स थे और जो आज हम करेंगे उसके देने की कोशिश करूँगा। जो टॉपिक्स हमने कर लिए हैं इन्वेंटरी वैल्यूएशन के, दे आर लाइफो एंड फाइफो, आपको याद होगा। हमने ये एग्ज़ाम्पल आपके सामने आ रहा होगा। ये एग्ज़ाम्पल हमने किया था लाइफ फाइफो और लाइफो दोनों के थ्रू। और आज हमने करना है एवको व्हिच इज़ द एवरेज कॉस्ट मेथड। आपको याद है कि लाइफो में फर्स्ट फाइफो में फर्स्ट इन फर्स्ट आउट, यानी एक मटेरियल जो कि पहले खरीदा गया वही पहले बेचा जाएगा और उसी के हिसाब से आप अपनी क्लोजिंग इन्वेंटरी और कॉस्ट ऑफ गुड्स सोल्ड कैलकुलेट करते थे। सिमिलरली आप लाइफो के अंदर आप लास्ट इन फर्स्ट आउट मींस जो आपने यूनिट्स या मटेरियल लास्ट में खरीदा था वही पहले बेचा जाएगा और उस हिसाब से आप अपनी क्लोजिंग इन्वेंटरी और सीजीएस कैलकुलेट करते थे। नाउ इन एवको, एवको इन दोनों का एक मिडल पाथ है और एवरेज आपको पता है हम लोगों को वैसे ही एवरेजेस लेने का शौक है, मतलब हम, और ये अच्छी बात भी इन अ सेंस कि वी डोंट गो टू द एक्सट्रीम्स। हम मिडिल में रहने की कोशिश जब करते हैं तो हम कहते हैं यार एवरेज ले लो चलो। ये बात अक्सर आपने की भी है, अक्सर सुनी भी है। कभी आप किसी सिनेरियो में फंस जाएं जहाँ पे कंप्यूटेशन हो, कंप्यूटेशन यानी कि न्यूमेरिकल्स हो, तो आपने अक्सर ये टर्म यूज की होगी कि एवरेज कर लेते हैं, ठीक है। तो और या ऑन एवरेज इतना होता है जहाँ पे श्योरिटी भी ना हो किसी चीज के बारे में। तो इसी तरह आप एफको के अंदर भी क्या करते हैं, एवरेज ले लेते हैं। किस चीज की एवरेज ले लेते हैं? उनकी प्राइस की या उस कॉस्ट की, सॉरी, जो आपने इनकर की थी उन यूनिट्स की। आपको ये एग्जांपल याद होगा, ऊपर ले चलता हूँ। 500 यूनिट्स आपके पास ओपनिंग में थे, 800 आपने 24 के हिसाब से खरीदे, 700 आपने 26 के हिसाब से खरीदे और 1400 यूनिट्स आपने पूरे मंथ में बेचे। अब एफको के तहत अगर इसको आपने वैल्यू करना है क्लोजिंग इन्वेंट्री को और अपनी ये सीजीएस को, तो देखते हैं जी क्या करना है। तो ये है जी एग्जांपल उसके लिए। और ओहो, एक मिनट जी, वेट करें जरा। चले, तो इस एग्जांपल को अगर आपने एफको के थ्रू सॉल्व करना है एवरेज कॉस्ट मेथड के तहत, तो बेटा ये भी बहुत सिंपल है। आप देखेंगे, ये देखें जी, आपने किया क्या, आप तमाम के तमाम यूनिट्स की एक एवरेज प्राइस ले लें, एक एवरेज कॉस्ट ले लें। और वो कैसे किया आपने? आपके सामने एक मेथड आ रहा है विच इज वेरी सिंपल एंड व्हाट यू डू इज आप सब की टोटल कर लें अमाउंट। और ये टोटल अमाउंट जो 47,400 आपको याद होगा, ऊपर भी आपने ये दो दफा कैलकुलेट की थी कि एक में, ये देखें, जो टोटल मालियत है हमारे यूनिट्स की वो इतनी है। 10,000 बनती है जी ओपनिंग की, 19,200 800 जो 24 के हिसाब से लिए, और 18,200 जो आपने 700 यूनिट्स लिए एट द रेट ऑफ 26 पर यूनिट। और इन सबको जब आप ऐड करते हैं तो दिस कम्स आउट टू बी 47,400। और ये देखें जी, ये आपने यहीं पे किया कि 500 इंटू 20 प्लस 800 इंटू 24 प्लस 700 इंटू 26, और ये टोटल मालियत आ गई विच इज 47,400 डिवाइडेड बाय टोटल नंबर ऑफ यूनिट्स यू हैड ड्यूरिंग द होल मंथ, जो कि 500 ओपनिंग प्लस 800 एक दफा प्लस 700 एक दफा 2000 बनता है। सो द एवरेज कॉस्ट पर यूनिट इज 47,400 divided by 2000, which means 23.70। तो 23.7 आपकी एवरेज प्राइस है एक यूनिट की, एवरेज कॉस्ट है, सॉरी, एक यूनिट की। और अब आपने इसी को यूज करना है इन फाइंडिंग द क्लोजिंग इन्वेंट्री एंड सीजीएस। तो बेटा कितना सिंपल हो गया, एंडिंग इन्वेंट्री आपकी कितनी थी, 600 यूनिट्स, 2000 में से 1400 बिक गए तो पीछे 600 रह गए। और अब आपने जो मल्टीप्लाई करना है उसको, वो ये नहीं कि पहले वो आया 100 के साथ उसको मल्टीप्लाई कर दिया, 500 उसके साथ मल्टीप्लाई कर दिया, नहीं, बट यू विल बी मल्टीप्लाइंग all of the 600 units with the average price which is 23.7, so this comes out to be 14,220. ये आपकी टोटल जो है एंडिंग इन्वेंट्री की वैल्यू है। सिमिलरली सीजीएस भी आपने ऐसे ही कैलकुलेट करना है। कितने गुड्स बेचे? 1400 यूनिट्स। 1400 into 23.7 which is the average cost, this comes out to be 33,180। या ऑल्टरनेटिवली आप क्या कर सकते हैं, तो आप पहले भी करते हैं, एंडिंग इन्वेंट्री अगर फाइंड कर ली है तो 47,400 ऊपर भी आप यही करते थे, उसमें से माइनस कर देते थे क्लोजिंग इन्वेंट्री को, तो जो रह जाता था वो आपका सीजीएस होता था। तो इट्स द सेम, मेरा ख्याल है ऊपर वाला मेथड ज्यादा इजी है। 1400 into 23.7 कर ले, या सिर्फ ए पार्ट करके टोटल कितनी थी आपके पास इन्वेंट्री इस पूरे मंथ में 47,400 की, और उसमें से एंडिंग माइनस कर दे तो जो आंसर आएगा वो वही होगी जो बिक गई होगी, तभी वो इस कैलकुलेशन का पार्ट नहीं बनी। तो ये जी इतना सिंपल था एफको। तो ये तीन आपके पास मेथड से ऑफ वैल्यूएटिंग योर इन्वेंट्री। कौन सी दो इन्वेंट्रीज को वैल्यूएट किया? द क्लोजिंग इन्वेंट्री एज वेल एज द cost of is the goods sold, the inventory that was sold, उसकी वैल्यू। तो अब मैं आपके साथ बेटा शेयर करने जा रहा हूं कुछ वीडियोस इनके एग्जांपल्स की, और ये एग्जांपल्स जो है ये आपके लिए, क्योंकि हमारे पास एक कंस्ट्रेंट है, हम ये सारी वीडियोस, ये एग्जांपल्स जो है उस तरह से शायद कंप्यूटर पे नहीं कर पा रहे, तो मैंने फिर ये वीडियोस के जरिए आपको एग्जांपल्स देने की कोशिश की थी लास्ट सेमेस्टर में भी, इसमें भी। ये पांच तो नहीं, ये 3-4 वीडियोस हैं, बड़ी अच्छी वीडियोस हैं। तो अब ये वीडियोस मैं आपके साथ शेयर करने जा रहा हूँ, आप लोग ये वीडियोस देखेंगे और ये एग्जांपल्स हैं। तो चलिए जी, लेट्स स्टार्ट विद दिस एग्जांपल ऑफ LIFO एंड FIFO।
Inventory cost accounting using the FIFO method versus using the Lifo method. The acronym FIFO stands for first in, first out. The acronym Lifo stands for last in, first out. Both FIFO and Lifo are cost accounting fictions that can lead to very different numbers of cost of goods sold and gross profit. Let's work through a visual as well as a numerical example of FIFO versus Lifo. We will do the inventory accounting for a hypothetical company called Toy Giraffe Inc. As the name suggests, this is a company buying and selling toy giraffes. In the first quarter of the year, Toy Giraffe Inc. is building up its inventory. In January, they buy 100 units, packed in 2 boxes of 50 units each at $5 per unit. In February, 200 units, 4 boxes of 50 units at $6 per unit. In March, another 100 units, 2 boxes of 50 units at $7 per unit. The Q1 ending inventory is 400 units at a total purchase price of $2,400, so on average $6 per unit. In the warehouse, the company does not specifically identify the boxes, they just stack them on a big pile. For cost accounting and inventory valuation purposes, the company does keep track of the timing of the buys and the unit cost. Then we go to April. The ending inventory of Q1 is the beginning inventory of Q2. The visual representation of the FIFO inventory flow is at the top, Lifo is at the bottom. The first box of toy giraffes, 50 units, is sold in April. With FIFO, first in, first out, we assume that the oldest inventory gets sold first, one of the boxes purchased in January. With Lifo, last in, first out, we assume that the newest inventory gets sold first, one of the boxes purchased in March. 2 boxes of toy giraffes are sold in May. With FIFO, first in, first out, we assume that the oldest inventory gets sold first, the last of the boxes purchased in January, and one of the boxes bought in February. With Lifo, last in, first out, we assume that the newest inventory gets sold first, the last of the boxes purchased in March, and one of the boxes bought in February. 4 boxes of toy giraffes are sold in June. With FIFO, first in, first out, we assume that the oldest inventory gets sold first, the remaining 3 boxes bought in February, and 1 box purchased in March. What stays in inventory at quarter end under FIFO is 1 box purchased in March. With Lifo, last in, first out, we assume that the newest inventory gets sold first, the remaining 3 boxes bought in February, and 1 box purchased in January. What stays in inventory at quarter end under Lifo is one box purchased in January. Let's compare FIFO and Lifo numerically. For both FIFO and Lifo, the number of units in inventory at both the start and the end of April is the same. The ending inventory is 7 boxes of 50 units each, 350 units in total. For inventory valuation, as well as determining cost of goods sold, it is important to determine what is the cost per unit for this specific box. With FIFO, first in, first out, we assume that the oldest inventory gets sold first. So we assume that the box sold originated from the January buy. What remains in inventory at the end of April is 50 units from the January buy, the full 200 units from the February buy, and the full 100 units from the March buy. In total, 350 units with a total purchase price of $2,150, so on average $6.14 per unit, an increase of the weighted average unit cost up from $6 previously. If we prepare the income statement for April, revenue is 50 units times $10 is $500, cost of goods sold or COGS if 50 units times $5 is $250, and gross profit is $250. Out of the January buy that was part of the beginning inventory, 50 units go to COGS and 50 units go to the ending inventory. With Lifo, last in first out, we assume that the newest inventory gets sold first, so we assume that the box sold originated from the March buy. What remains in inventory at the end of April is the full 100 units from the January buy, the full 200 units from the February buy, and the remaining 50 units from the March buy. In total, 350 units with a total purchase price of $2,050, so on average $5.86 per unit. Under Lifo, the average cost per unit in inventory goes down in this example compared to the $6 previously. If we prepare the income statement for April, revenue is 50 units times $10 is $500, cost of goods sold or COGS is 50 units times $7 is $350, and gross profit is $150. Out of the March buy that was part of the beginning inventory, 50 units go to COGS and 50 units go to the ending inventory. Onward to May. The ending inventory is 5 boxes of 50 units each, 250 units in total. Applying FIFO, what remains in inventory at the end of May is 0 units from the January buy, 150 units from the February buy, and the full 100 units from the March buy. In total, 250 units with a total purchase price of $1,600, so on average $6.40 per unit. If we prepare the income statement for May, revenue is 100 units times $10 is $1,000, cost of goods sold or COGS is 50 units times $5 is $250, plus 50 units times $6 is $300, and gross profit is $450. Out of the remaining January buy that was part of the beginning inventory, we took all 50 units to COGS and we took 50 units from the February buy into COGS. The remaining 150 units from the February buy go to the ending inventory. Applying Lifo, what remains in inventory at the end of May is the full 100 units from the January buy, 150 units from the February buy, and no units from the March buy. In total, 250 units with a total purchase price of $1,400, so on average $5.60 per unit. If we prepare the income statement for May, revenue is 100 units times $10 is $1,000, cost of goods sold or COGS is 50 units times $7 is $350, plus 50 units times $6 is $300, and gross profit is $350. Out of the remaining March buy that was part of the beginning inventory, we took all 50 units to COGS, and we took 50 units from the February buy into COGS. The remaining 150 units from the February buy go to the ending inventory. Onward to June. The ending inventory is just one box of 50 units. Applying FIFO, what remains in inventory at the end of June is just 50 units from the March buy, 50 units of $7 each, $350 in total. If we prepare the income statement for June, revenue is 200 units times $10 is $2,000, cost of goods sold or COGS is 150 units times $6 is $900, plus 50 units times $7 is $350. So total COGS of $1,250, and therefore a gross profit of $750. Out of the remaining February buy that was part of the beginning inventory, we took all 150 units to COGS, and we took 50 units from the March buy into COGS. The remaining 50 units from the March buy go to the ending inventory. Applying LIFO, what remains in inventory at the end of June is just 50 units from the January buy. 50 units of $5 each, $250 in total. If we prepare the income statement for June, revenue is 200 units times $10 is $2,000. Cost of goods sold, or COGS, is 150 units times $6 is $900, plus 50 units times $5 is $250. So total COGS of $1,150, and therefore a gross profit of $850. Out of the remaining February buy that was part of the beginning inventory, we took all 150 units to COGS, and we took 50 units from the January buy into COGS. The remaining 50 units from the January buy go to the ending inventory. To summarize FIFO versus LIFO, here are the cost of goods sold and ending inventory values by period. With FIFO, first in, first out, we assume that the oldest inventory gets sold first. With LIFO, last in, first out, we assume that the newest inventory gets sold first. In both the FIFO and the LIFO method, no COGS in Q1 as we did not sell anything. FIFO cost of goods sold, $250 in April, $550 in May, $1,250 in June, $2,050 for all of Q2. The ending inventory value is simply the previous period's inventory value minus this month's COGS. Start with $2,400 at the end of Q1, then $2,150 end of April, $1,600 end of May, $350 for end of June. When using LIFO, the pattern over the months as well as the ending values are different. $350 COGS in April, $650 in May, $1,150 in June, and $2,150 for all of Q2. The ending inventory value is simply the previous period's inventory value minus this month's COGS. Start with $2,400 at the end of Q1, then $2,050 end of April, $1,400 end of May, $250 for end of June. With FIFO, in the earlier periods, April and May of this example, the cost of goods sold is lower and therefore both the inventory value and the gross profit are higher than when applying LIFO. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the
जी बेटा, तो ये
Storyteller YouTube channel.
एक
Thank you.
एग्जांपल था आपके सामने, बड़ी जबरदस्त वीडियो थी इन दिस सेंस। तो मेरा ख्याल है टाइम ज़ाया नहीं करते, एक और एग्जांपल की तरफ बढ़ते हैं। बल्कि 2-3 बड़ी ज़बरदस्त वीडियोज़ हैं और अभी हमने एफको की तरफ भी बढ़ना है और ये एक छोटा एग्जांपल है। ये आपको एफको को भी बीच में इंक्लूड कर देगा। तो चलें इसको स्टार्ट करते हैं।
T-shirts for $5 each. $5 is the sale price of the t-shirts. We bought the first t-shirt for $1, the second for $2, and the third for $3. This is our cost to get the t-shirts to our store. Let's assume we have 3 t-shirts that we sell. This lady down here wants to buy the first t-shirt that we have bought. Our revenue is $5 because the lady has to pay $5 to get the shirt. However, our cost is $1. Gross profit therefore is $4. This method is called specific identification because
अच्छा, ये वीडियो ना थोड़ी ज़्यादा डिटेल में आ जाएगी क्योंकि इसमें ना प्रॉफिट की कैलकुलेशन भी आपको जो इंक्लूड की जा रही है, तो ये भी बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग वीडियो देखेंगे।
we specifically identify which t-shirt the lady bought. Now let's assume that instead of 3 we're selling thousands of shirts. Do you think that anybody would have the resources and time to specifically identify which shirt was picked up by their customers? Well, chances are you're not Superman. So to be more efficient, we have to rely on assumptions. First assumption is FIFO, first in, first out. The products that we buy first are the first to be sold. Second is Lifo. Products that we buy last are the first to be sold. And finally, we have average cost method. We find the average cost of each shirt and we apply it to each sale that we make. Under FIFO, first in, first out, whatever we bought first is the first to be sold. Let's say this guy picked up the second shirt. He has to pay $5, which is our revenue. Our cost of goods sold is not $2 because we do not care which shirt he picked up. We assume he picked up the first one that we have bought, so our cost is $1. Under Lifo, whatever we bought last is the first to be sold. Let's say this guy picks up the second shirt. He has to pay $5, our revenue. Our cost of goods sold is not $2 because we do not care which shirt he picked up. We assume he picked up the last one that we have bought. Our cost is $3. Under the average cost method, we simply find the average cost per shirt. We do not care which t-shirt this guy picked. The average cost is calculated to be $2 per shirt. And that is our cost of goods sold. Therefore, the gross profit is $3. Now let's compare the three methods. The revenue is the name under all three. Since the selling price is 5 per shirt, now the cost of goods sold is 1, 3, and 2 respectively, which ends into a different gross profit. That means under FIFO you will pay the highest taxes, under Lifo the lowest. Let's assume you're selling these light bulbs and you're using the FIFO method. At the start of the year you had 20 units at the price of 10 and you purchased 10 more at the price of 11. We know we have sold 15 units. So what is the cost of goods sold and ending inventory? Let's see. Since under FIFO what we bought first is the first to be sold, we will assume we have sold 15 units which were purchased at the price of 10, which gives us a total of 150. The ending inventory is what we have left. That is 5 units at 10 and 10 units at 11. Let's solve the same problem, but now using Lifo. The same beginning inventory and the same purchases. Again, we have sold 15 units. Find the cost of goods sold and the ending inventory. Let's see how that works out. So under Lifo, whatever we have bought last is the first to be sold. Since we have sold 15 units, that means we have sold 10 units at the price of 11. We bought this last, remember? And 5 units at the price of 10, for a total of 160. The ending inventory is what we have left. That is 15 units at the $10. Let's solve the same problem, but now using the average cost method. Same beginning inventory, 20 units at $10, same purchases, 10 units at 11. Again, we have sold 15 units. Find the cost of goods sold and ending inventory. We first have to find the average cost per unit. To find that, we need to find the total cost, which is 20 at 10 and 10 units at $11. That adds up to 310. Divided by 30 units total, it is $10 per unit cost. So the cost of goods sold of 15 sold units is 15 times that price. Okay, I hope you understood, guys. Thank you for listening.
जी बेटा, so this was yet another example of Lifo FIFO और एक लास्ट वीडियो है और इसके बाद ये चैप्टर भी ख़त्म हो जाएगा इंशाल्लाह और मेरा ख्याल है कि इसके बाद कोई गुंजाइश नहीं रहेगी मज़ीद कोई एग्जांपल्स की क्योंकि दिस इज़ अ वेरी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव वीडियो। इसमें तमाम एग्जांपल्स बहुत डिटेल में हैं। ये वीडियो जो है आप लास्ट वीडियो एग्जांपल के तौर पे और ये आपके एग्जाम की प्रैक्टिस ही है ये एग्जांपल्स क्योंकि उस तरह से तो हम कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं कर पा रहे तो इसीलिए मैं चाह रहा हूँ कि आपको इस तरह ही मैक्सिमम एग्जांपल्स कराए जाएं और इसके बाद FIFO, LIFO, AVCO इंशाल्लाह ताला आपको हमेशा के क्लियर हो जाएंगे, क्लिस्टर क्लियर हो जाएंगे। तो ये लास्ट एग्जांपल है, वीडियो है, ये देखें जी और इसके बाद इसको हम वाइंड अप करते हैं।
device I'm quite proud of here. So we're going to work through in this online lecture. We've got a variety of transactions here in January, including from January the 1st, 500 units of opening inventory. So this must be units that they've got that they purchased perhaps in the previous year, maybe back in December. And that 500 units valued at a total of £5,000. Now you might be able to work out £5,000 divided by 500 units. That's an average of £10 per unit for the opening inventory. We've then got on January the 8th some further purchases, 600 units. Now when you purchase inventory, that's going to increase the amount you're holding, and we can see that there's a price of the purchases on the 8th of £11 per unit. January the 17th, we've got further purchases of 900 units, so another increase in inventory, total of £10,800. Now notice when we're given the purchases information, sometimes it's per unit, and sometimes it's in total, so we need to make sure we can deal with both. Then on January the 24th, we've got an issue of inventory. 1,800 units issued, perhaps to sell to a customer, so that's going to reduce the level of inventory. And then January the 28th, right at the end of the month, another purchase of 800 units, and this is at £13 per unit. So you can see in yellow I've shown either the opening inventory or purchases of inventory, which will be increasing the amount we're holding. And in green, we've got the issue. It's important you distinguish between the increases in inventory and the decreases. Well, we're asked to calculate both the value of the issue on January the 24th, the 1,800 units they issued, and also the value of the closing inventory on January the 31st. So at the end of the month, how much have they still got left? And we're going to do it in three ways: FIFO, Lifo and AVCO, the three different inventory valuation methods that you need to be able to deal with in your studies. So basically I'm looking for 6 numbers here, because we're looking for the value of the issue and the value of the closing inventory under each of 3 different methods. Well, hopefully you've already had a go at this, see if you can come up with your own numbers. Well, let's start with FIFO, first in, first out. Now, first in, first out means we're selling the oldest units first. So the first that went into the storeroom are the first to come out, the oldest units. Now, there's different ways you could actually show your workings here. I'm going to use what I think is quite a sensible approach to working through the figures here. Just looking at the transactions in chronological sequence, so starting with the earliest. In fact, the earliest transaction was the fact that we had some opening inventory. So on the 1st of January, we had 500 units, each valued, well, we had a total of £5,000, and we can actually therefore establish, as we'd already seen, that the cost per unit of the opening inventory is therefore £10. Just take the £5,000 divide by 500 units, so that's at a cost per unit of £10. On the 8th of January, we then purchased another 600 units for £11 per unit. Now, this way I can work out the total. If you multiply 600 units by 11, that's a total of 6,600. Now, if I pause at that point and work out what my inventory position is, well, we had 500 units, just purchased another 600, so I would now have 1,100 units at a total value. Well, if you add up the 5,000 for the opening inventory plus 6,600, that's a total of £11,600 at the end of the day on the 8th of January. We've then got the 17th of January, a further purchase, 900 units, and we were given the total value of 10,800. So again, we can go to work out the cost per unit. If you take £10,800 divided by 900 units, you should get that coming to £12 per unit. In fact, what you may have noticed is that the cost per unit is gradually increasing. That's often the way in the world. Inflation tends to mean that prices rise over time. But again, if I now look at my inventory position, we had 1,100 units at the end of the day on the 8th of January, just bought another 900, so I've now got 2,000 units in total, with a total value, well, if you add the 11,600 plus another 10,800, that's £22,400 worth of inventory at the end of the day on the 17th. So far we've gradually been increasing the amount of inventory we're holding. We then get to the 24th. Now remember, the 24th is a very different transaction. This was an issue of an inventory. So reducing the number of units, I'm now going to knock off the 1,800, which means you can imagine that we would now have 200 units of inventory. We had 2,000, we've just issued 1,800. So we'll end up with 200 units. And in fact, that 200 units will be the same under FIFO, Lifo and AVCO. Because the difference with FIFO and Lifo and AVCO is the amount we're going to value the issue at. So in fact, the number of units will stay the same. Well, how are we going to value this 1,800 units that we're issuing on the 24th of January? Well, FIFO means first in is first out. So we'll start by selling the oldest inventory at that point. Now, the oldest inventory was the opening inventory that we originally had. So in fact, if I start a little working at the side here, so the first thing we'll do is sell the 500 units that was in the opening inventory. Now, we know that that was at £10 per unit, and we know that that has a total value of £5,000. But obviously that 500 units doesn't make up the 1,800 that we're selling. So I'll then look to the next oldest inventory, which is the 600 units that we bought on the 8th. Now, they were purchased at £11 per unit, total of 6,600. Now, if I've so far taken 500 units of opening inventory plus 600 units from the 8th, that's 1,100 units in total. I need a total of 1,800, so I'm thinking I now need, and I'm now looking to the next oldest inventory, which was from the 17th, but I don't need that entire 900. I think I now need another 700 units to make up the 1,800. Now, that's 700 units. They were at £12 per unit, the cost on the 17th. And so that gives me another £8,400 worth. So if I just double check, if you add up 500 units from the opening inventory, plus 600 units from the purchase on the 8th, plus then 700 of what we purchased on the 17th, that's my 1,800 units with a total of £20,000 of value you should find if you add up the 5,000, the 600 and the 8,400. So I think that under FIFO, the value of the issue is exactly £20,000. Now, if I knock off £20,000 from the 22,400 we previously had, that leaves me with £2,400 of inventory. In fact, you can double check the logic of that figure. Because if you think about what we've done, we've issued all of the opening inventory, so that would all have gone. We've issued all of the purchase from the 8th, so that would all have gone. And we issued 700 of the purchase that we made on the 17th. Now you can see we purchased 900, so if we've issued 700 of that, that would indeed leave us with the 200, which would be valued at 12. And if you do a quick double check, 200 units times 12 does give you £2,400. So you can double check the logic of your figure there. So that's dealing with the issue on the 24th. We've then got a final purchase. Don't forget the purchase on the 28th. Another 800 units being purchased at a cost of £13 per unit. So I can establish the total value of those purchases, just 800 units times 13. That gives me another £10,400 worth of inventory. And you can see that if you add on that final purchase, I've now got 1,000 units of inventory at the end of the month with a total value of £12,800. Now, if I just tidy up my answer here, and then we can summarise the position that we've got to. So there's my overall working, and the figures I'm interested in. Remember, I wanted the value of the issue. So under FIFO, it's 20,000, and the value of the closing inventory at the end of the month, the remaining 1,000 units on the 31st of January, which you can see is 12,800. So those are the two figures that I was interested in for FIFO. Well, what if we now start considering our second method, which is Lifo. So last in is first out. And in fact, under Lifo, a lot of the information is actually the same. We still had the opening inventory of 500 units, still with a total value of £5,000. We still purchased 600 units on the 8th. They were at £11 per unit, giving a total of 6,600. So at the end of the day, on the 8th of January, we've still got 1,100 units with a total value of 11,600. On the 17th, we still purchased 900 at a total of £10,800, which was £12 per unit. So in fact, at the end of the day on the 17th, we would still have 2,000 units with a total value of 22,400. Because your different inventory valuation methods, all they change is the way you value the issue. The purchases are dealt with in exactly the same way. You just add the purchases on, both adding the units and adding the cost. What's going to differ, though, is the way we value the issue, in this case, the issue of the 1,800. Now, let's think carefully about how we're going to value it this time. Well, Lifo means last in is first out. So we actually sell the newest units of inventory first. So when I'm selling the 1,800, the first place that I will now go is the most recent purchase of 900 on the 17th. That's the last stock that went into the storeroom. That's therefore the first that will go out. So again, if I do a little working, we're now going to take all 900 at £12, which we know is 10,800. We'll then go back to the next newest units of inventory, which is the 600 we bought on the 8th at £11 each. And you can perhaps see that that's so far, well, 900 plus 600, that's 1,500 units so far. So when I then go back to the next newest inventory, which is actually the opening inventory, hopefully you can see I only actually need 300 units from the opening inventory to make up my 1,800. That 300 is at the £10 per unit from the opening inventory. So again, it's the same 1,800 units that I need, but can you see I've this time taken the newest units first? Now that gives me a different cost of the issue. If you add up 10,800 plus 6,600 plus 3,000, this time that's 20,400. So in fact, when I'm now valuing this issue, it's going to be valued at 20,400. Now you might remember under FIFO, that was valued at 20,000 exactly. You can see with Lifo, it's valuing the issue at a slightly higher cost. Now the reason for that is, can you see we're taking more units at the most recent price of 12, and the most recent price was the highest price, wasn't it? We've taken fewer units this time at the oldest price of 10. So you would typically expect Lifo to give you a slightly higher value for the issue. Well, if I knock off that 20,400 from the 22,400, that leaves me with £2,000. And the reason that's different is we've now got rid of all of the purchase on the 17th. We've got rid of all of the purchase on the 8th. And if you remember, we got rid of 300 units from the opening inventory, meaning I'm left with 200 units of the opening inventory. That's my 200 units. And the opening inventory was at 10. And 200 units at 10 gives me the 2,000. So again, you can double check the logic of that figure. We've then got the final purchase of 800 at 13, which still has a total value of 10,400. And so I'll still have 1,000 units of closing inventory if you add the 800 units onto the 200 you had, but at a different value. I've now got £12,400 as the closing value of inventory on the 31st of January here. So just to summarise again, if I tidy my workings up a bit here, just to summarise the end result there, what is it I'm interested in? Well, I'm interested in the value of the issue on the 24th, which under Lifo is £20,400, and the closing inventory value, which under Lifo is now £12,400. And you'll notice those figures are both a wee bit different than we got under FIFO. Well, we've looked at FIFO, we've looked at Lifo. What about our third technique, which is AVCO, or average cost? And again, much of this is the same. We've still got the 500 units at £10 per unit with a total of £5,000 value. We still purchased 600 units on the 8th at £11 per unit, giving 6,600. We still purchased 900 units on the 17th at a total of 10,800. So in fact, at the end of the day on the 17th, we've still got 2,000 units with a total value of 22,400. So you can see when you're making purchases, it doesn't matter which valuation technique you're dealing with. It's only when you make issues that the difference arises. So it's only going to be the cost of the issue that is going to differ. And the way AVCO works is AVCO is thinking that perhaps when we make the issue of 1,800 units, perhaps we don't really know which units we're selling. Perhaps we don't know whether we're selling the opening inventory or the purchase on the 8th or the purchase on the 17th. Maybe these units are all just jumbled together in our storeroom. Maybe we don't know which units we're selling, so we can therefore take the average cost. Now, the way we'd work out the average cost is at the end of the day on the 17th, we had 22,400 of value for 2,000 units in total. We can therefore take the 22,400, divide by the 2,000 units to work out the average cost per unit. And I get an average cost per unit there of £11.20, which you can see makes a bit of sense because the 2,000 units is a bit of a mixture of some at 10, some at 11, some at 12. So it makes sense that the average is somewhere in amongst those figures, £11.20. So what we're going to do is we're now going to value the entire 1,800 units that we're issuing at that £11.20. So we don't know whether it's units at 10 or 11 or 12 that we're selling, so we just take the average cost of £11.20 and 1,800 units. And that gives me £20,160. Which if you now deduct from the 22,400 we had, I've got remaining inventory of 2,240. And if I can double check that figure, because that should be at the £11.20 per unit as well. If you're issuing at the average cost, you should have inventory remaining at the average cost, and 200 times 11.20 is indeed 2,240. So in fact, AVCO in some respects is a lot easier than either FIFO or Lifo, because I don't need to start tallying up where the 1,800 units are coming from. I don't need to worry which stock I'm selling. I just do it all at the average cost. Well, that's the value of the inventory on the 24th of January. We've got £2,240. We've then still got the purchase on the 28th, 800 units at 13, and that's still 10,400. And so that takes me to my 1,000 units with a total value of inventory at the end of the month this time of £12,640. So the two figures that I'm interested here are the value of the issue on the 24th, which under AVCO was £20,160. And what you might notice is that figure is in between the FIFO and the Lifo values, which kind of makes sense because AVCO is a kind of hybrid of the two. And then the value of inventory at the end of the month on the 31st of January would be £12,640. And again, you should notice that that sits between the FIFO and the Lifo values for inventory. So we've now come up with our two figures for each of FIFO, Lifo and AVCO. Hopefully you've followed the process I've used there. It is useful, I think, in your assessments to set up little workings on a sheet of paper so you can work through it nice and mechanically. But I'm hoping you found that useful. Like I said, feel free to drop me an email if you've got any questions. Other than that, maybe I'll see you next time.
चलें जी, ये बड़ी ही कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव वीडियो थी और आपको अगर ये एक बारी में समझ ना आई हो, आप दोबारा इस वीडियो को देख के पॉज करके देख सकते हैं। एंड आई गेस दिस वाज द एंड ऑफ दिस चैप्टर। इससे ज़्यादा हमें ये करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, बहुत ज़्यादा एग्जाम्पल्स हो गए हाँ, और इससे ज़्यादा हो नहीं सकते। बहुत सिंपल भी थे, ईजी भी थे। सो दिस वाज FIFO लाइफो। आपको ये बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट एक चैप्टर है, ये आपको मतलब ये लाइफ में हमेशा सुनने को मिलेगा, आगे भी कभी ना कभी ये इसका जिक्र जरूर होगा। तो एक बड़ा बेसिक कॉन्सेप्ट था ये अकाउंटिंग का, खासतौर पे कॉस्ट अकाउंटिंग का। इन्वेंट्री वैल्यूएशन भी हो गई जी। इन्वेंट्री मैनेजमेंट का चैप्टर खत्म। इस चैप्टर में हमने इन्वेंट्री को मैनेज करना देखा, स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम द डिफरेंट टेक्निक्स ऑफ इन्वेंट्री मैनेजमेंट। और ये इससे अब आप लोग अंदाजा लगा सकते हैं कि इन्वेंट्री मैनेजमेंट काफ़ी एक्सटेंसिवली अब ये चैप्टर हो गया है। सो अब हम नया चैप्टर स्टार्ट करेंगे इंशाल्लाह ताला। नेक्स्ट क्लास है जो हमारी इंशाल्लाह ट्यूसडे को होगी। तब तक आप लोग अपना ख्याल रखें एंड एंजॉय द वीकेंड। अल्लाह हाफिज़।